I'm Vanessa. How do you start with this particular story? I met my husband a little bit later in life. So, I was 35, he was the same age. We quickly knew that we wanted to be together, so it was a pretty smooth run from there. I was on the pill when I met him. Into like a year and a half into the relationship, I stopped. And the reason I talk about this, I think it's extremely important when it comes to fertility. As a mother, trying to get pregnant at a later age, at an older age. So I stopped the pill a year and a half into the relationship because I knew we wanted kids. I've always wanted kids, but we were struggling even before we got married to actually fall pregnant. So we never really had a mishap. We weren't using protection, but we never had a oops moment. So it wasn't until after we got married that we decided to actually look into it further, and then starts the IVF journey. So I think the way it happens mostly is you go to a fertility specialist or a GP and they'll refer you to a specialist. And I think their first thing is they'll say to you, without giving you any other guidance for getting pregnant, is, oh, you definitely need to do IVF. Now, not knowing what that meant for us, you go in quite blind, but you take their advice, you go, you do the appointment. The very first IVF doctor we saw was probably one of the experiences that I still remember. It was pretty horrifying. Absolutely no bedside manner. There was no compassion. Very clinical. I was expecting an appointment to be, like a 45-minute appointment or something with a bit of substance or depth or explanation. No, I think we were there about 15 minutes, and it was dot. Yeah. Look, you are, you are, and this is what he said. You are almost 40. This might not happen for you. And I think that was our, like I said, that was our first experience with IVF, and we both left there just in tears because, he may be thinking that, but I believe that's probably the wrong way to put it. Anyway, fast forward, we'd gone to an extra 2 doctors after him, and we had done cycles with him, both fresh transfers, embryo transfers, both were failed. And then I went to this other IVF specialist. I had my egg retrieval, I had my embryo ready to go. And then I heard a horror story about this particular doctor, so I left her and I went to another doctor, and this was the doctor who actually got me pregnant with Archie. He was the only doctor that believed in a woman's immune system, that he believes that it plays a really important role in a woman's fertility. Not a lot of IVF doctors actually do look at that as a factor. What he was offering was something different, because up until then, nobody had done a lot of tests on me. It was more, you just have unexplained fertility. We can't tell you why. No matter what I tried, nobody could tell me why. I was still getting a regular period, always have since I was 16 years old. Never missed a period, nothing untoward. I've never had any operations, issues, nothing in my life I've ever had an issue with my body. He started me on it, so I had this embryo from this other doctor, and I got that transferred over. It was frozen, I got it transferred over to this particular doctor. So his protocol was, obviously it was just a transfer. So I had the baby, I had the embryo. It was just a matter of him transferring it. But he was concerned with some of the tests he'd done. So he did a couple of blood tests. And he was the one who told me that I had lupus. No idea what that meant, no idea what it was, never heard of it. Googled it and I was like, what? No, I don't have lupus. I'm sure I don't. I don't feel anything. I have no symptoms, but he's the doctor. Again, you go with what the doctor tells you. So I was put on a very high dose of steroids called dexamethasone. And they were basically an immunosuppressant. So they were basically he was saying that my immune system was 3 times higher than the average person. That's why my body wasn't accepting, it was rejecting any foreign objects. So basically killing the embryo. So let's bring your immune system down so that we can give the embryos as much of a chance. So I started that, I think I started at 2 weeks before my transfer, along with all the other medications. I was told I needed every 2 weeks to come in to have something called intralipid, which was an IV. It was an hour, so you sit there for an hour with the IV drip. It's basically a fat. Yeah, it's soy product-based fat. So I had the dexamethasone, plus the naltrexone, plus the intralipid. Intralipid was, like I said, every 2 weeks, and that was $400 a pop. 2 weeks and do that. I was told I had to be on that until I was 26 weeks pregnant, both the intralipid and the dexamethasone. I have the transfer and I fall pregnant, which on my 41st birthday. So after you transfer, you're supposed to wait at least 10 to 12 days before you'll get your proper blood tests done to tell you if you're pregnant or not. I couldn't wait, so I did a pregnancy test. And on the morning of my birthday, my 41st birthday, I was like, I'll just try. It might say negative, but whatever. I'm so used to a negative result. And I did it, and I left it there, and I went and had my coffee, and I was like, I'll come back in 10 minutes, or whatever it is. I went back, and I looked at it, I thought there's nothing there, and then I went, and it was like this moment of, nah, that can't be right. That can't be right. There's no way. And I remember actually looking at myself in the mirror because the mirror's right there, and I smiled and laughed at the same time. And I was like, nah, this isn't, I can't, there's no way. And I put it away. I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything because it could be a false positive. And so I won't say anything to Paul, my husband. I'll wait. I'll just wait. I did a test the next day. It got brighter. Next day it got brighter. After 3 days, I just said, okay, I've got to tell Paul I can't hold it in anymore. And I sat down. He was sitting on the couch. I came with the test behind my back. I said, oh, by the way. And I showed him, and he was beside himself. I said, but we do need to wait for the blood test to definitely give us that answer. I started, like I said, on the dexamethasone. Now, the reason I keep talking about I mentioned the dexamethasone is because about 2 weeks into taking it, I started to feel strange. Something was not right. I couldn't put my finger on it. First, it started with just a little bit of anxiety. Then it went to full-blown panic attacks and anxiousness. And then it just went to full-blown panic. I still to this day can't explain it properly to the magnitude of what I actually felt. And it just got progressively worse. So I'm pregnant by this stage. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. It was extremely difficult for me to get up and go to work. I would sit on the couch for hours and just bawl my eyes out. Now, people could potentially say, oh, it's just your pregnancy hormones. Even though I'd never been pregnant, this did not feel like pregnancy hormones. I was having hallucinations. I was thinking things that I'd never thought in my life, that I didn't want to be a mum, I didn't want to be pregnant anymore. I wanted the baby gone. I wanted to go. I didn't want my husband around. I didn't want anyone to touch me. And by the, I'm going to say, 4-week mark of feeling this way, I said to everyone, I said to myself, I didn't really say it to anyone. I said, every night I go to sleep, I said, please just don't wake up. Just don't wake up, just don't wake up. I would never have done anything to hurt the baby, and I wouldn't have hurt myself in that sense, but I just said the easiest way for this to just stop is to I didn't wake up. Please let me just die in my sleep. It was just much easier. And it was almost like I was watching myself from, sounds strange, but like I was watching myself from above, thinking to myself, I know this isn't me, but I could not stop it. No matter what I tried, no matter what I did, deep breathing, relaxation, meditation, nothing. And I did not put the two together. Initially when you go and get your prescriptions, your medications for your IVF, you do see the nurse and they do go through each medication. When it came to dexamethasone, and I remember this so vividly, I don't know why, just for that medication, not anything else, just for that particular medication, she said to me, the dexamethasone is a steroid. It can, what did she say? It can cause a couple of hallucinations, but you'll be fine. Like it was downplayed quite a lot. There was no mention of depression or anxiety or nothing like that. It was really downplayed. Why? And I don't know why I remember that specifically, but I remember it because after the fact, it was like, wow, you did not tell me it was going to be this bad. But then again, like I said, I didn't connect the two. I honestly didn't. I just thought I was going crazy. I didn't know. I thought after all this time, the guilt, after all this time trying for a baby and you're now not happy, what is going on? I don't understand. I tried going to different GPs and psychologists and stuff like that. And in the end, my brother came around and just to say hi, to check on me. He knew I was not doing well. And while we were talking, I said, "Oh, give me a second," because my alarm went off because I had to take a particular medication. And he said, "Oh, are you still on that stuff? Or are you still taking medicines?" I said, "Well, yeah, because not just that stuff I had to take. There's other injections that help with, so for example, Clexane. Clexane will help reduce any blood clotting, especially with IVF. So I had to take things constantly. It was not just you take it once and then you don't have to take it again. It's an ongoing while you're pregnant, yeah. Every case is different. This was just the protocol I was on. Not everybody will do that, but that's what I was on. But tablets every day and injections every day. It's support for the baby. He said to me, "He's still doing that?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Ness, have you thought potentially that that's the stuff that's stuffing with you?" I said, "Really? Do you think?" And it was almost like an aha moment, honestly. It was kind of like, oh, maybe. Anyway, he literally got on the phone with my IVF clinic, and my actual IVF doctor was in Greece at the time, or Dubai. And they paged him and he rang straight away. And he said, "Tell her to cease that medication now." He started to wean off. He said the only thing is if she stops taking that medication, we can't guarantee that she'll stay pregnant, because the medication was helping me with my lupus. My brother looked at me and said, "That's the decision you need to make." And I said, "Well," he said, "I can't live like this. I can't. There is absolutely no, I'll go, I'm going to be in the loony bin, 100%. I'm literally going to be in the loony bin." I was living in a different universe, honestly. It was awful, absolutely awful. So I was weaning off it, and within, I'm going to say 2 weeks, I started to feel different straight away. I wasn't feeling so disconnected from myself anymore. My reality was actually looking like my reality. My home looked like my home. My hands looked like my hands. I know that sounds really strange. It was like, I don't even know. It's like a psychedelic. I can't even tell you. It was bizarre. The problem is what happened to me during that 4 weeks scarred me and still scars me. It's still there. What I went through that 4 weeks was, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. It was awful, absolutely awful. I don't even know how I made it, honestly. Eventually then I started to actually enjoy being pregnant. Now by this stage I was 4 months pregnant. So my whole first trimester I was an absolute basket case. I did not enjoy any of it. And the funny thing is I never had morning sickness. I never felt sick. I felt normal. It was just that. It was just my head that was not okay. 4 months pregnant by this stage, and I was actually starting to enjoy it. And then, I was starting to prepare. I was ordering the bassinet and the change table and bought clothes, and I got a baby bath from my sister-in-law, and I kept it in my room, and I put all these clothes in the baby bath, and doing all that kind of stuff. I wanted to potentially do a gender reveal, but at that time I was present, but I wasn't. It's hard to explain. I was happy that I was pregnant, but I was extremely scarred. That's all I can say. I was very hesitant to do much else, to celebrate the whole thing. I wanted a baby shower, but I never ended up getting it. So by the time I hit my third, I was 6 months pregnant by this stage. Yeah. So with my obstetrician, at my 21-week scan, he looked and he said, "Oh, your blood pressure's a bit high." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "Oh, we'll monitor it." And he said, "Oh, I'll come and see me next week," because I was seeing him every, I believe, 4 weeks. I can't remember. He said, "I want to see you every week from now on." I said, "Okay." And he said, "I want to do a urine test." I said, "No problem, let's do a urine test." The following day, he rang and said, "Well, there's protein in your urine that's present in your urine." I had no idea what that meant. I'm like, "Okay, explain." So summing it up, he basically said, with your high blood pressure and the protein present in your urine, that's the first sign it's a sign that you could potentially develop preeclampsia. Didn't know what preeclampsia was. I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Well, yep, so just come next week and we'll have a look." No worries. Came again next week. Blood pressure was a little bit higher again, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to put you on some blood pressure medication." That's all right. So I started taking blood pressure medication along with all the other stuff. "And I'll see you again next week." "Yep, no problem." Next week, same thing. Blood pressure was even higher. "Take 2 tablets instead of 1 for your blood pressure." He did not seem concerned. He didn't seem alarmed. There was no urgency. So I wasn't concerned. I thought he was solving the problem by giving me the blood pressure medication. This went for 4 weeks. By the end of it, I was on 8 blood pressure medication tablets. Came around we had Christmas that year. I was fine. I did not feel a thing. I did not feel different. I did not feel anything. On the 26th, so on Boxing Day, that night time, I got this really bad cough. And the more I coughed, the worse it got, obviously. But then I was coughing up blood. And I was like, it's a bit strange. And I showed my husband. He goes, "Oh, that doesn't look good." I said, "Oh, look, I think it'll be fine. It's maybe because I'm coughing a lot, then I said, if tomorrow morning it's still there and it's bad, I'll, you know. Next morning, same thing. And then I had nosebleeds and stuff. And I was like, no, not good. I rang the nurse on call and I said, I explained the situation. You know, I'm 25 weeks pregnant. This is what's happening. She said, go straight to the emergency. She said, no, it doesn't sound good. You need to go. So I went to the emergency. I got Paul to drop me off. I said, I'll call you soon. I said, I'm sure it's nothing. Go home. You know, it'll be fine. And this is where everything went just weird, bizarre. So I was on a gurney within 20 minutes. I had tubes all up in my business and looking at all the tests that they'd done while I was in there. Yeah, you have severe preeclampsia and pneumonia. Okay. And I'm basically, in a nutshell, they said to me, if we don't get your blood pressure under control, because at this stage it was 190 over something ridiculous like 100, you know, the layperson should be at 130 over 80. So, and it was getting worse. Got to 200 and something, I can't remember, it was so bad. If we don't get your blood pressure under control, your kidneys are going to start to fail, your liver's going to fail. We need to get the baby out, because the only way to stop the preeclampsia, because the preeclampsia is in the placenta, starts in the placenta, the only way is to get rid of the placenta, and the only way to get rid of the placenta is to have the child. I said, okay. I said, maybe someone needs to call my husband. And I said to him, once he came, I said, don't call mum and dad yet, because I know that they'll start freaking out. They had gone through what I'd gone through, because they were by my side the entire time. My parents are like my everything. Yeah, sorry. That happens when I talk to my parents. So, they came in, and so many things happen with preeclampsia. Like I said, the body just basically starts to fail. So they were really concerned about my kidneys, because I'd already had so much leakage, so the protein in the urine. They really need to keep an eye on that. They also put something, it's called it's magnesium. So they had this strip of magnesium, and that, the only reason they gave me that was to stop seizures. So apparently my body would start to go into seizures. I was like, oh, what's going on here? This is insane. And if you've not had a magnesium drip, she warned me. She said, look, it's going to feel like you're burning from the inside. I said, oh, that's great. This is fantastic. And they were actually laughing at me, because I really did not understand the magnitude of everything. I honestly didn't, because I wasn't pre-warned by my obstetrician how serious this is. I was joking around. I was like, because I was still lucid. I was fine. I didn't feel like I was, dying from the inside. So the magnesium came in. I was like, no, I don't feel anything. And all of a sudden, just this, like someone had lit a fire in my body, and I just was beet red. I was sweating. It was awful. But she said, you need it. If you don't have it, you're going to start to have seizures, and sometimes we can't come back from that. I said, no problem. So I've gone into the high dependency unit there, and they were monitoring my blood pressure for a couple of days, and they tried everything to get it down. Because really at the end of the day, their goal is to keep the baby inside as long as possible, obviously, to give it a better chance of survival. But after 2 days, they said, look, it's actually getting worse. We can't. And your life is now in danger. We need to get him out. So I was booked in for a C-section on the 29th of December 2022. You are warned about, you know, preterm births. There could be chance of brain damage. They could pass straight away. You know, you're warned about all these things, and you have to agree, I guess, to you know, that you understand that these are the risks that you're taking. And what else are you going to say? No. So you say, yeah, okay. And went for the C-section. That was, like, my mum had 3 C-sections, and she always used to say, oh, you can feel it, like, you can feel someone buggering around in there, but it's not painful. You feel the sensations. And I did feel that. And I remember, I know he was taken out and taken to obviously where he needed to be, because he was breathing, but, you know, they have to make sure they're clear, you know, all the normal stuff. But he was breathing on his own, which was really incredible, because that's kind of unheard of. They usually need to be intubated straight away, and, you know, but he was actually breathing on his own, and they were quite impressed with that. And it was, not long after he had come out, and I said, is he okay? Is he breathing? Yeah, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. Because I've actually got it on video. The nurses in there actually taped some of it and took photos. And then the last thing I remember is kissing him. So he had to be taken straight to the NICU. And then I don't remember anything else. I just was out. No idea. I don't remember. Most people remember coming from their C-section, going to their room, being tired, yeah, sure, and sore, etc. But I woke up 2 days later. I don't remember what happened. My mum told me after. But no, my body just was prepared to just stop. It was done. They had told my mum, my husband couldn't be there. He actually had the flu, so he wasn't allowed into the hospital. So my mum was my carer at that stage. And that still haunts her to this day. I think she's got PTSD from it. They said to her, you need to ring family. I don't think she's going to make it. Like, I was apparently having, you know, seizures every 5 minutes. My mum said, she said, I remember looking at you and it's like your body was like dripping, like just like you were melting. Like, it's weird. She said water was coming from your body. It was weird. She said it was really strange. And I kept looking at the blood pressure monitor, and they're saying, oh my God. And she said there was about 12 doctors in there, and this, that, and the other. I don't remember it, but thank God, obviously. Anyway, came to 2 days later, I don't know how. In a coma, I was completely unconscious. It was not there. I was not there at all. I did have a dream that I saw my grandfather, which is really weird because I was very close to my mum's dad, my nonno, and he wasn't. So I remember my mum. Like, my mum, for me, she's next to me. That's just how I see my mum. She's next to me because that's how she's always been. And I remember her being in the hospital rooms with me. She would always sit next to me. And when I had my dream, it was my nonno that was sitting next to me. He didn't say anything. He just... I knew he was trying to tell me, though, everything's going to be fine. You'll be fine. Just calm down. Everything's going to be fine. Okay? And then I saw what it first started off to be like a close-up of a belly button, like magnified belly button. I didn't know what I was looking at initially. It wasn't until later that, like, in the dream, that it started to go in like a circle, like a spiral. And I realized, oh, that's a belly button. And then through that, the spiraling came a snake. And the snake was, initially it was, scared the shit out of me because I thought it was going to hurt me. And the snake just had like a soft face, like a reassuring face. And then I woke up. I don't know, it was weird. It was weird. I was in the ICU for 2 days. Yeah, it wasn't like I completely didn't know anything. Yeah. It wasn't like I was shocked, like, oh my God, what's going on? But I did become pretty hysterical at one point where I said, I need to get out of here, I need to get out of here. And then from there, it was just, I felt depleted. I felt something, I was already, had my cesarean scar was the least of my problems. I was constantly lightheaded, everything was always tingling, and I ended up having to be on about 6 different blood pressure medications because my blood pressure still wasn't stabilised. It, for some reason, just wasn't going down. And my kidneys just weren't really levelling out. So your kidneys can't repair themselves. It's not like your liver. Your kidneys, once they've been damaged or scarred, they can't repair themselves. It's a matter of just getting it to a good level with some medication. So that was the goal at that point for my health at that stage, is getting my blood pressure down, the right doses and combinations of medications to get my blood pressure down and get my kidneys right before I could even think about being released. But Archie was, just like I said, I didn't meet him until 2 days later. I was gone up in a wheelchair, and of course at that stage it was kind of just post-COVID, so nobody else was allowed in there except for myself and my husband. So none of my parents, my brothers, my sister-in-laws or anything ever met him in person. So the first day, so I was in a wheelchair, I was so out of it, and you had to wear the masks. I couldn't breathe because I was so sick. Just, actually having to meet your son like that, and they said, oh, I've got that on video actually. You talk to him, I can hear you, basically, in utero. Thank you. I can hear you, they recognise your voice. I started talking to him. The moment I started talking, he actually started, reacting to it. So, and I was still so out of it. I had no idea what was going on, to be honest. I hear myself talking in the video and I'm like, oh my God, it's crazy. But I kept saying to him, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, that I couldn't, be well enough to keep him, safe and in the belly for, like, felt bad for, I felt shit because it was, you see them so vulnerable. He was so little. He was 587 grams. My little love. Funny thing is, he had the most, the circumference of his head was like really good. I can't remember what it was now. It was 30 centimetres long. And they said he's doing quite well considering his gestation. Like, they were quite really surprised at the start. At that point, he had been intubated because he was struggling with the breathing. And I thought, that's fine, that's good, that's fine. But you see them, his skin, wasn't completely developed yet. So he was almost translucent. You could see all the veins. But he's perfect, he had perfectly formed fingers and toes and his nose and the ears and everything was perfectly formed. He didn't look like he was not supposed to be here yet. It was really weird, he was kind of reaching certain goals when they wanted him to as well over the following days. He did his first poop. They were really happy about that. He was peeing properly. His feeds were going, were kind of up and down. I was pumping, but I was too sick. Nothing was really working. So I was using donor milk. And his feeds were going good, but because they're so little, it's very common for them to start getting infections, skin infections, and he did get a skin infection. And he was put on antibiotics. And he seemed to respond to the first set of antibiotics for the infection. But he was getting a lot of bruising. So every day we'd see a new bruise. Or a new Band-Aid, or a new this, or not Band-Aid, but bandage, or this and that. Then I think, like I said, then he was having really good days and really bad days, and I think that's how it goes in the NICU. Most babies, they have good days and they have bad days, especially at that age. We would go in every day. We had a number to call even if we, early in the morning before we got there, and they were all gorgeous there, really nice, wonderful ladies. But then he got so how it started, I think, was I kept looking at his tummy and thinking there's something wrong with his tummy. My husband said it too. So it's really distended, so it's quite bloated. And lo and behold, they came to us that day and they said, look, we're a little concerned that he does have a stomach infection, which is a little bit more serious than the skin infection, so we're going to put him on some antibiotics. So they did. He responded to it, and he got quite good, and then deteriorated the following day. So they tried another set of antibiotics. The morphine went up. They said to us, there's a possibility that he may get NEC, which is necrotizing enterocolitis, I can't pronounce it. So that's basically where because their stomach lining is still underdeveloped, it's quite thin, so any infections, the stomach can't fight it, and it'll make its way into the digestive system and stuff like that, and it can start killing off the stomach. So yeah, by this stage he'd had it. We'd gone on medication, antibiotics, and then got better, and then it got worse, and then it got to the point where they said, look, we've done some scans, and we are concerned, yes, that he has NEC. The only thing we can do from here is take him to the Royal Children's, because they have the facilities for that kind of procedure. We are concerned that he might not make the drive over there though, because he's quite sick. So we can't go in the car with them, so they take him with a special car transportation to the Royal Children's. And there was so much traffic on the road, and I remember getting the phone call, and she said to me, she goes, where are you? Well, I don't know who she was, the nurse or the doctor or whatever. Where are you? And I said, we're literally like around the corner, but the friggin' traffic is crazy. She said, you really need to hurry because he's not looking good. Oh, for God's sake. So we hurried, but run into the my dad literally dropped us off at the front and we just ran in. But yeah, we got in there and they said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to first go in, so open him up, check the situation. So if a majority of his gut has died off. There's not much we can do. However, if only just a little bit of it is compromised or dead, we can remove that, and it'll still be a long recovery, but he could do really well if it's just a little bit. So we had to wait for them to go and do that, and then come back to us and let us know the fate of our child, basically. And I remember being in the room that we'd been designated a room there where it's got a bed and so forth. And I knew straight away. When they walked in, because you can just tell by people's face. And I feel like poker face in that kind of line of work is just, I don't know how they do it, to be honest. And she said, look, we went in there and unfortunately all of his gut's gone. And I remember I actually got up and I ran to the wall and I punched the wall, screaming. I don't know, I can't remember. So they said, look, the only thing we can offer you is to sit with him and as long as you want, and we'll keep him comfortable. And when you're ready, we'll, turn off whatever they've turned off. And you know what the worst part if there is a worst part, but by that stage, I actually started to feel like myself again in terms of they'd figured out my blood pressure medication, so I wasn't feeling faint all the time. I felt normal. So I feel like the emotion of it was even, I could feel it even more, because now I'm like, oh my God, I'm definitely in reality. This is, and how do you say when I'm ready now? How do you do that? Like, it's just, I don't know. I just don't know. It's unfair. For me, it was more, I know how much, I know he was suffering. How do I say it? He was pooing through his penis. That's how bad he was. That's how sick he was. And I know that he was suffering. I know, why would I want him to be doing that? Just being a machine keeping him alive just for me to be, that's not fair for him. So we had our time, of course, but I just said to him, let's, we're ready, and they turned off the machine, but what they have to do is, I laugh, I don't know why I laugh. So they have to, obviously, once they turn off the machine, they have to confirm death. So they put the stethoscope, and he was still breathing. He was still breathing. It's like, I'm not ready. Or I don't want to, whatever it is. And she said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, we need to wait a little bit more. I'm like, okay. I was just staring at him thinking, you stubborn little thing. Like, Yeah, and then I just said to him, sweetheart, it's fine. You can, like, just go. Like, I'm fine, we're fine, we love you, everything's fine. Be at peace, you know, thing. And then, yeah, that was it. So, just yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting what you can actually deal with when you're in, like, you know, if someone had said to me before all of this, oh my God, you know, how would you feel if you lost a child? You'd be like, oh my God, there's no way I could do it. There's no way I could do it. What do you, you've got no choice. You're in that situation. You have to find reason and strength and whatever from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. My husband, who is incredible, when I was at my real lowest point, I said, babe, would you be okay if we terminated the pregnancy? Because I was still at a stage where I could terminate the pregnancy. And he said, babe, I don't want you to, but I want you. Like, I need you. I need you. I don't want to lose you. I never would have terminated the pregnancy, but just knowing that he was okay with, well, not okay with it, but he was giving me that comfort. He was giving me that reassurance that it's okay. No, it's fine. It's calm. He was a very calm, safe space, which was really, really comforting. Not only him, my mum and dad, my brothers, my sister-in-laws, even my nieces and nephews, God bless them. But yeah, it's, at the end of the day, what I want people to know about him is that he saved my life. He did. And I knew there was a lesson in something, or everyone says, well, I've even said things happen for a reason. Sometimes we don't know what the reason is, but yeah, he definitely taught me certain things. I am very different now, I think, I believe. I feel it. I feel different. In a day-to-day scenario, I have ongoing health issues. I actually had a phone call this morning. I've now actually had to be put back on, I'm on 3 different medications, blood pressure medications, because my kidneys are so damaged. The scarring from the preeclampsia means that I still have protein in my urine, which is not meant to be there. It is definitely not meant to be there. So they're really concerned, and they've had this for ever since. It's been 3 years now. They've been monitoring me quite closely, and yeah, that's gotten to the point where now we've tried everything, and at my age, they said they're really concerned that my kidneys, I have kidney disease basically. It could get worse if we don't get it under control, or something. Try and protect them somehow. I've had to go to a neurologist because I have white spots on my brain, and they've now, after investigations, could potentially be because of the preeclampsia and the blood pressure. So yeah, and from that, trying to get pregnant, we after Archie died, I think in the last 3 years we've done another 3 rounds of IVF with no success. Financially, emotionally, mentally, physically draining, to be honest. My work has changed because I love what I do, but I think it needed to be on like we were saying before, it needed to be on my terms, because that pressure isn't good for my blood pressure. It's something that I have to be really mindful of. Before all of this, I started my business, I was so driven to the point of I had a stroke. That's how thingo, yeah. 2017, that happened. And from there, it's something that I need to keep an eye on, that my stress levels need to be at a very, very minimum for me to function. Otherwise, there's going to be issues. Mental health is a massive thing for me, and I've seen psychologists, I've seen psychiatrists, I've seen counsellors, I've done acupuncture, I've done everything for my mental health, but also for getting pregnant, for staying pregnant, for getting ready for pregnancy, you know, all these kinds of things. So there's a lot of work to be done there, because at the end of the day, whether they be a professional in that sense, or is it your friend from down the road, or your business partner, or your partner, or your mum, or nothing they say can help that either. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not their fault, because they want to help, but no one can take that. Like, I think the only thing that they can really, I think the best thing for people to do is to actually say nothing sometimes. Just knowing you're sitting there is fine by me. Knowing that I've got something there, just in case I fall, I'm good. I'm very lucky that I have, and it's similarly with you, you have that family network where, you know, it's actually hard to get away from them. You know, they're there, which I wouldn't have any other way. Yes, my mum, yes, my dad, my husband. The one person I feel like just knows is my sister-in-law, my middle brother's wife, Rebecca. She's like, I can't even explain it. She's so calm. She's calm, she's collected, but she'll let you talk. When, let's say in terms of grief, or what you're thinking, or what you're feeling, or whatever. There's no judgment. She never doesn't say, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should do that, or, you know. No, she just listens. And had my business, and quite prominent on social media. I had my followers, and I wanted to let them, I mean, literally my page is all cakes, but I wanted them to know a little bit something personal about me in terms of actually falling pregnant finally after, 5 years of IVF. And then actually sharing the news that when he was born and what had happened, why I gave birth earlier, and even, posting about his passing. From that came a lot of women, couples, whatever it may be, but obviously predominantly women, who had gone through something very similar. One who'd gone through almost something identical and lost her daughter only 2 weeks before I lost Archie. And I kind of from there, they were inboxing me, and I was talking to them, and I said, do you have people around you that you can talk to, because I know I've got it. Do you have it? Kind of thing. And I kind of put the word out there to say, if you need to chat, even if it's not a chat, even if you come here or we go somewhere and we just sit and not say anything. If you want to talk, let's talk. But, we can just, as long as I know I've been there, you've been there, let's, talking about it. Same with you. That's my therapy. If I don't have that, if I can't talk about it, it sits in here and in here. But yeah, again, I've put it out there to other women, and they've all contacted me. I've had so many different stories. But like I said, it is nice because they'll listen to me, I'll listen to them.
There's a level of understanding that we all have in this baby loss community, which is so devastating to be a part of.
Yeah, not a good club, but
no, it's not the greatest club to be a part of.
No.
And all we can do is have that community and just know that we're all thinking of each other and support.
Yeah. 100%.
And whatever we can do.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for
sharing
your story. Is there any way you honour Archie?
Well, he's everywhere.
Yeah.
In this house.
I know,
he's literally everywhere. I think that was one of the first things I did. I got all my photos that were on my phone and on Paul's phone and my mum's phone or whoever's phone.
Yeah.
We got them and I put them all on in frames. We have so before, obviously, Archie, we'd renovated the house and we have that hall table there, but it used to have just artificial plants and stuff like that, very but now we actually call that Archie's table now, so I'm like, oh babe, it's in Archie's table, so there's drawers there, so it's actually, there's his ashes there, so and some holy water and the prayer that was actually read in the hospital when it was time to say goodbye by the minister that we had chosen, and I've printed that out, and so he's everywhere. He's definitely everywhere.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really appreciate it. I'm sure so many other parents will take so much from your story.
Thank you.